This episode is brought to you by Vital Farms. Isn't it bullshit to have to question where your food comes from? At Vital Farms, you can trace your pasture-raised eggs all the way back to the source, the pasture. On the side of each pasture-raised carton of eggs, you'll find the name of the farm where your eggs were laid. And when you look the farm up on their website, you'll get a peek at all the sunshine, fresh air, and open space the hens enjoy. Learn more and find out where to buy them at vitalfarms.com. Vital Farms, keeping it bullshit-free.
'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
The holidays start here at Kroger with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Kroger has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
This episode is brought to you by Klaviyo, the platform that powers smarter digital relationships. With Klaviyo, you can activate all your customer data in real time, connect seamlessly with your customers across all channels, guide your marketing strategy with AI-powered insights, recommendations, and automated assistance, deliver experiences that feel individually designed at scale, and grow your business faster. Power smarter digital relationships with Klaviyo. Learn more at klaviyo.com/Spotify. That's KLAVIYO.com/Spotify.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Welcome to the podcast. In this podcast episode, I talk with Jamie Dunaway Seal about unpacking Gen Z salary expectations. Jamie Dunaway Seal, welcome to the conversation today.
Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to be with you. Welcome back to the podcast. We've talked before and you always have great insights. Today, we're going to be talking about a recent report and data analysis that you've done, unpacking Gen Z salary expectations. And I think from a comp and benefit standpoint, from a strategic.
No, I think that sums it up pretty well.
All right, very good. And remind me, where are you located?
I'm located in Dallas, Texas.
Wonderful. Texas. I'm joining you from the Salt Lake City area in Utah. Now, Jamie, as we get started, why don't you share a little bit of just background around this analysis, the survey results, and the report? Like why this report? Why now? Why is this something that you were focusing on?
Right. This is the second edition of this report. And both years, we discovered that Gen Z really does not have a good grasp on what they're actually going to make 1 year out of college and even into mid-career. And, this is really important because, as they're, financial planning, they've got a lot of debt coming out of college and, they're looking for jobs and they're going to need to find a job that they can live on and save and pay off their debt. And if you don't have a good idea of what the salary range is for your field, you might really be in for a surprise. And so we just want to give, want kids to be as educated as they can coming out of college.
Yeah. And, I love the idea of just
giving everyone straight out of school a really great starting salary. I wish we could pay people more, but we also have to have a firm grasp on reality so that we can plan accordingly. And that's part of the challenge. It's part of the challenge of when students go into the university setting and choose a major. Reasonably, what can you expect? What's the cost of that education? What kinds of student loans are you going to have to take out? What can you expect reasonably from a salary in that career field? And we know that some careers just pay better than others. And I'm all for a broad liberal arts education. I'm all for the humanities and the social sciences. I'm a sociology undergrad myself. But it also comes with the realization, one of the reasons why I went on for grad school is because I knew that, graduating with a bachelor's in sociology alone probably wouldn't get me to where I wanted to be. Right. And so just having that understanding, I think, is just really, really important. I don't want to discourage any student from pursuing, their passion or pursuing the field that they're super interested in. But you just have to understand what those realities are.
Right. One of the interesting things we found in the study was that most students say that they think about salary when they're choosing a major, but sometimes when they get into it, they're like, this really isn't for me. So like engineering students, they're probably going to make a really good salary right out of college, but a lot of them, regretted their major. It could be that high stress environment, or, it's just not really interesting to them. Whereas on the flip side, psychology majors who are probably not going to make the highest salary right out of college had, the least regret. I think only 37% regretted their major, which is still a good chunk, but it wasn't as much as some of the other fields that we saw.
Yeah, and I forget the report that came out. Maybe you're referencing it, or maybe this is from your own analysis, but there was a report that came out not long ago, maybe a few months back, that had the 10 least regretted majors. Is that what you're referring to, or did you do your own analysis there?
Right. This was from our own analysis.
Okay.
And, it is interesting, like, to some extent, if you have a good salary, like, you're going to be less stressed financially, but you also, like, money doesn't buy everything. It doesn't buy, complete happiness. So sometimes it really is worth, following your interests and following your passions.
Yeah, well, and just anecdotally, I'll just share my own background. So I switched majors several times, and I ended up in accounting. I was at a top university in a top accounting program, ranked top 1, 2, or 3 every year. I was good at it. I knew that if I did this program and I finished, I would be set. Like, I would have a successful career. I'd have a stable career. I would have a good salary with lots of opportunities for growth, etc. The only problem was I hated it. And so, I was a year into the program, and I just really didn't like it. The more and more I thought about, like, this is what I'm going to slog through every day for the rest of my career, I couldn't envision it. And that's when I switched. I switched my major one more time. I went from this like top-notch accounting program to sociology, and people thought I was nuts for doing that. And maybe I was, but you know what? I'm really glad that I didn't find myself. I'm 44 now. I'm really glad I'm not like 44 stuck in a job I hate. Instead I was able to carve out a different path, and I found success in the path I've taken, even though it was totally different. And there's nothing wrong with people doing a job that they're good at, that takes care of their needs, their family's needs, pay the bills, and they don't love it. I am an advocate for just hard, honest work, and not everyone is privileged enough to be able to be picky and choosy about the work that they do. That's fine, but to the extent that you do have a choice, to the extent that you have the ability to carve out your own path while taking care of the needs of your family and everything, then yeah, all else being equal, look for the thing that you love doing. Look for the thing that's going to bring you engagement and passion and happiness, and allow you to do what you do best each and every day. And you're going to be less likely to find yourself in the throes of a midlife crisis, 10, 15, 20 years into your career, if you do that. And that's not to say that every job doesn't have the stuff you don't like. I love being a professor. I don't love grading papers, but so there's things that I love, things that I don't like as much. That's just the reality. But finding what you can love makes a difference. And And so even though I made that choice, even though I knew, an undergrad in sociology versus an undergrad in accounting from a top national program, I knew that that would be a huge trade-off in terms of what I could expect. But I also knew in making that calculus, like going through that thought process, I also knew that meant for sure grad school. I wasn't just going to stop at my bachelor's. And so that was part of how I moved forward in my path. Okay, so enough about me and enough about my own little anecdotal story here. I think lots of people can resonate with similar types of paths in a university setting and as you're trying to navigate early in your career. So we have this expectation. Lay out for us some of what the report tells us around the salary expectation for those leaving school, moving straight into the university setting, or straight into the workforce.
Yes, we found that most Gen Z students expect to make about $85,000 one year out of school, so an entry-level job. But the reality is that they're going to get more like $55,000. That's the starting salary on average across the US. And then, most students aren't going to get that. So they're probably going to have to compromise. And we found that like 97%, nearly all students said that they would accept a lower starting salary in exchange for some good benefits. But even then, their minimum, they say, is $72,000, which again is still too high. So,
it's really not what it's really not what the market will bear. It obviously depends on discipline and what you study in school and the career path you're taking. But, I think it's much more reasonable for the average college student to come out thinking, maybe 50, 55, 60 on the high end. That's a much more realistic expectation. Yet, you're talking about the low end being 72,000. So there's a huge disconnect there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that just comes down to, there has been a lot of talk just about, employers wanting to really retain and attract good employees. And so they're offering a lot of, pay raises and incentives to get these good employees. And so I think Gen Z might be hearing this and listening to this and thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to make a lot of money. And it's still just their expectations are too high. The starting salary has increased a little bit, but not to these levels that they're expecting.
Yeah, sure. So how do we start to bridge that gap? Because I mean, that's not good for anyone. If an incoming early career professional has an unrealistic expectation like that, they're going to get super frustrated in the job search. They end up eventually they're going to have to kind of reestablish, their expectations. They're going to end up taking a job that's paid way lower, which means they're probably going to enter the workforce and start in that first job, probably feeling unfairly compensated, probably a little discouraged and frustrated around what they're making. So from their standpoint, I think recalibration is really, really important if they're going to have a good launch pad, for the start of their career. From the employer standpoint, if you want to attract and retain good people, you don't want to start from a place of people just feeling like they're being vastly underpaid. If I start a job and I think I'm getting paid 25% lower than I should be, that's not a good place to begin for anybody. So how do we start to bridge that gap in terms of these expectations?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it starts with education, like these colleges, career centers, they really need to help students figure this out by providing lots of resources. And, to some extent, the onus is on the student. Like they need to, talk to their professors. Like a lot of times, like I majored in journalism, like, my professors were very clear about what I would probably make right out of college. So just, ask their teachers if they do an internship, ask their boss, ask their coworker, and that will help them really get a good gauge of what they can expect. And on the employer side, I think clear career frameworks are really helpful so that new employees can see like where they could go in that particular job at that particular company. And so they have an idea and they can set realistic expectations.
Having that dialogue is going to be really important in the university space. I want my students to have, we talk about realistic job previews all the time. I'm in the HR space. So we talk about realistic job previews from a variety of angles, just from an HR perspective. Certainly part of that means just what is realistic for you as a student leaving this program. Like, we think we prepare our students really well. We think we launch them well. We think they're going to be able to have success. But, if you think you're going to leave and magically get that 80 grand a year job without a master's degree, I think you're probably smoking something. It's just not going to be the reality for like the vast majority of students. It's possible, but it's just probably not going to happen. So, with that said, on the professor side, on the advising side in the university setting, we just need to be realistic with our students and be clear in helping to set those expectations. And on the employer side, I think we need to be crystal clear when we're going through the recruitment and the screening and the selection and the interviewing process. Be transparent. That's something I feel very strongly about, that we should have less of the opaqueness around hiring, salary, benefits that are offered with the position. I think we should be transparent in job postings, let people know right up front what the range is and what is reasonable for this position, so that people won't waste their time. They don't waste your time going through the whole interview process, trying to get a job and then realizing, oh, this is 20% less than I expected. I see that all the time. So on the employer side, think about the applicant experience. Think about the bringing this new person in. And if it was you, what would you hope for and what would you expect? And act accordingly. I don't think employers are malicious ever in trying to like pull one over on people they're bringing into to the organization. But I do think they often are not as transparent as they could or should be. And it's not malicious, but it's just a lack of attentiveness, and it's a lack of really thinking through, what would I want if I were in this position looking, to join this company? And most people would say, yeah, I would like some clarity around what the pay actually is, what the benefits are. I'd like consistency in how that's discussed throughout the process, so that if I do get selected, I can get onboarded and it's going to be a relatively smooth process. And I can start from a positive place of feeling good about where I'm at, not feeling like I had to settle, not feeling like I got cheated from day one at this company.
Yeah, I do want to piggyback on what you said about including salary ranges on job applications. I think that's really important. Again, so just no one is wasting their time. And just, personal experience that I've had in HR and recruiting is like, I know that our company includes the ranges on the applications, and the feedback that we've gotten from applicants has been really positive. They say that's one of the best things that, that they experienced, going through our recruitment process. And so that's another just really great way to attract, the best employees.
Good. Well, what are some of the other results that come out of this survey?
Right. So we found that most students, they have unrealistic salary expectations, but they also have unrealistic expectations about how they're going to get a job and how they're going to just progress in that job. Like, most students think that they're going to be promoted like within 1 year. The average is about 2 or 3. They also think that they're never going to have to work an entry-level job, which is highly unlikely. And that this one does have maybe some weight to it, that it's more about who like, your family and personal connections are going to help you get a job more than your actual skills. And well, I think finding a job is a little bit about who you definitely need to be qualified to actually do that job.
Yeah. So who might help get you in the door for the interview. I think that's absolutely true. Networks matter. The network effects are huge. But unless your parent is like the CEO, that connection isn't going to help you get that job. if you don't have the skill set to go along with it. So it might get you in the door for the interview or to be considered, have the start of the conversation. But if there are tons of really qualified people who have the skill sets and you don't, forget about it. Like, you're just not going to get selected. Businesses are too competitive. Companies aren't going to shoot themselves in the foot, you know?
Exactly. I think it's really important to build those skills, like those practical skills as a student, because, you know, your resume only is going to get you so far. Like, it's important to have a good resume, but you want to show them the practical skills and, you know, projects that you have accomplished as well. Not just like, oh, I have a 4.0 GPA.
Yeah. And that's something I try to tell students all the time. It's about the practical application of knowledge in our program. That's going to be really important for you. And that's why we build in internships. We build in lots of consulting projects into our courses. The students don't always love it. Sometimes they would rather just kind of do an easier class where they don't have to do that kind of stuff. But it's going to make all the difference in the world when they're applying for positions and they can demonstrate actual experience doing actual projects, working through the challenges that are innate with those, and just demonstrating how they have been able to apply what they've learned. And it's not about the GPA. It's about the skills. And so, you know, getting that 4.0, that's great. And I know some people have that goal. But sometimes I think one of the best things that can happen to a student who's like a 4.0 student is that first A- or that first B+ that they get, that then kind of frees them from the bondage of like that constant expectation of trying to get a 4.0, because frankly, nobody cares in business. They just do not, especially after the first job. You know, whatever you did in your undergrad, once you get that first job, it's all about your performance. It's all about what you're able to accomplish in that first job, your university experience and your GPA and your projects and all those sorts of things. That helps you get that first job. It's not really going to be all that relevant after that, right? In terms of just the raw like job application experience and what people are going to be looking at when they're making those hiring decisions. So GPA is just much on the lower end of what's going to be really, really important. Even grad programs are looking less at GPA now than they used to in terms of, you know, being a factor for admissions. So, you know, just keep that in mind for anyone listening who's early career in college. You know, keep those things in mind as you're trying to reasonably think through what you need to focus your limited time on, because everyone's busy, everyone's juggling lots of stuff. College students today, you know, at least at my university, you know, the average college student today is different than maybe the average college student a generation ago. Many more of them are working. A lot of them are non-traditional. A lot of them have families. They're juggling a whole lot of stuff. It's not just like going to college for 4 years and just like going through your classes. That, at least at my university, that's not how it is for almost anybody. So, you know, just recognizing how you're going to prioritize given limited bandwidth, limited time and resources is important, you know, as you're making the calculus towards your future. Well, very good. Anything else that you would like to highlight from this report that you think is really important in terms of Gen Z expectations in the workplace?
Yeah, I think just one last thing is, you know, you talked about earlier just kind of starting out from a state of disappointment. And, you know, we do see that in our study. Gosh, I hate to end like this on a downer. But, you know, when students kind of are faced with reality, they're like, oh man, like they really are disappointed. Like a lot of them think they're going to have to get a second job, you know, move back in with their parents. They're not going to be able to do like all the fun things that they want to do as an adult. So I think that this just really reiterates that the education is really important.
As we wrap things up today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us a final word on the topic for today.
Yeah, so anyone who wants to read the full report can go to realestateWitch.com/research, and they'll find this study as well as all of our other reports. And they can connect with me at Jamie Dunaway on Twitter, as well as at Clever Real Estate. And, you know, as for a final word goes, you know, I think that this report is, you know, we all kind of like to dunk on other generations, like, oh, you know, I can't believe that they believe this. But, you know, I think that it's just, we need to have, we need to be helpful, and we need to try and prepare these students as best as they can coming out of college.
Yeah, well said. Jamie, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Jamie can do for you. Check out the report and other resources. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.